Barcelona and Inter, a game that Barca went into knowing they had to win 3-3. It finished. It was a dramatic and wild game. Dembele had put Barcelona ahead. It came right down to the final stages when Gozens thought that he'd won it for Inter, but Lewandowski at the death leveled things out to make it 3-3. It was his second goal in this game, and it does give Barcelona a lifeline in this group because mathematically they are still in the Champions League, but it is not in their hands. In the next games, if Inter beat Pilsen or if Bayern beat Barcelona, then that is it. Barcelona are out of the Champions League for another season. As I said, very dramatic night at the Camp Nou. As we now welcome in Ali Moreno and Gabriele Marcotti as well. I'll start with you though, Craig. I mean, Barcelona only have themselves to blame here. You said during this game, defensively they were a shambles this evening.
Yeah, it's no surprise, particularly in the second half when Inter prodded and were very clever on the counter-attack as Barcelona got ragged and wild and chased the game. From an early point in the second half, chased the game. And it allowed Inter some good breakaways. Then there was some terrible decision-making by the most experienced player on the field in Gerard Piqué. Poor defending from him on more than one occasion. Poor defending from Eric Garcia. And really, Asolani at the end should have scored or squared it and taken all 3 points. So yeah, we talked about early in the year, would the attacking threat of Barcelona be enough to overcome the Achilles heel of the defence? And I know Araujo's out and I know Kunde's out, but these are still experienced players, some of them, and the answer is no. The answer was no. And quite frankly, they're lucky that they're still actually in with a sniff as small as it is this evening. Yeah, and I suppose you can thank Lewandowski for that one with the goal as well. We were saying during the game, popped up twice in the big moments when it matters. I suppose that's what they got him for. But Ale, how catastrophic is this going to be for Barcelona if they don't go through to the next rounds with all of the gambling that they did coming into this?
Well, of course, and that's obviously part of the story here, and it's a huge part of the story. When it comes to Barcelona, you can't just evaluate what happens on the field because it's tied hand with what happens off the field or what happened this summer in order to make sure that they had this team on the field. And so you have gambled. You have pushed all the chips in and you have said, this team right now, in this moment, not the future, right now, this team is going to win and win big. Well, part of winning big is making it out of your Champions League group. And as of right now, as you pointed out, it's not in their hands. Now, in terms of the game itself, it was all going to plan for Barcelona. Whatever you may think of their performance in the first half, at least they did a couple of things right. One of the things that we talked about last week was, okay, on the right-hand side, rather have Rafinha because that's where he feels most comfortable. So that's where he started in the game. And if indeed the opposite guy on the other side, in this case Dembele, has to be a second option in the box. Where does the goal come from? Rafinha wins the ball down the right-hand side, service from Sergi Roberto, and now Dembele closes the gap, tapping 1-0 Barcelona. And you're thinking, okay, from here, this is where they're able to keep possession of the ball. They control the game. But as Craig just mentioned, the game unraveled and it became crazy. It became out of control and disorganized when Gerard Piqué allows the ball to go over his head and says, that's all right, we got it, guys. All clear. No, not all clear. Inter ties at 1-1. And then after that, it was mayhem for both teams. Because I can also have to say that Inter mismanaged this game late in a couple of occasions. They could have won it themselves, but certainly they could have kept it in a situation which, when they were 2-2, they go up 3-2. They were up twice in this match, and they allowed Barcelona back in the game. Give credit to Lewandowski. But this is one where you can lean in the direction of saying, Barcelona are fortunate, and you can also say, man, Inter had some chances to put this thing away.
Do you think that's it then, Gab? It's a case of what might have been for Inter?
I'm not going to sit here and point out Inter's flaws on a night like this when they travel to the Camp Nou, when they're dealing with 80,000 people, a desperate team, a desperate club, banning people from wearing Inter shirts, at the stadium, ratcheting up all the pressure with the referee the whole week coming into them. Inter, who, yeah, they played all right against Sassuolo, but obviously didn't play well and could have easily dropped points in the first leg. Without Marcelo Brozovic, their midfield general, without their big signing of the season in Romelu Lukaku, I'm not going to throw Aslani under the bus for that miss at the end, and obviously it does give Barcelona a lifeline, or for mistakes they made. I would rather point out that Marc-Andre ter Stegen made a whole string of incredible saves in this game, that Inter could have scored more. I think certainly Eric Garcia, again, I just don't understand the guy. And I'm going to gloat for a minute, because I didn't write Inter off the way a lot of other people did when we were asked to predict how this group would work out. I saw Lukaku flattening Eric Garcia. Well, it wasn't Lukaku. It was Lautaro Martinez turning him inside out with that goal that came in off the post that finally beat ter Stegen. And yeah, Inter lived to fight on. I mean, this is Inter, right? They get so screwed up against Victoria Pilsen, you don't put anything past them. But I think, for one night, I think we learned a lot about how to manage a game and how to manage a situation. And I think between the two managers, I think it's Xavi who's going to have more to reflect on.
Which the reflection is that it's not an Inter side that's at full, and it's not a Barcelona side that's at full strength, but it's not an Inter side that's at full strength, far from it. It's not an Inter side that's sitting top of Serie A. It's not an Inter side that's flying. And yet, they've not been able to get the result. In fact, it was desperation at the end. This might sound strange, but Lewandowski got 2 goals, obviously, in desperation at the end. But I actually thought that back three over the 180 minutes hardly gave him a sniff. And I know they got a deflected goal and in the header when they were chasing the game, they were throwing the ball in the box. But I thought that back three were pretty much rock solid defensively for the most part. Yeah, there was 3 goals in tonight's game. I understand that it was a bit of a manic game, but I thought Lewandowski's general play wasn't great over the 180 minutes. You look at the back line, notwithstanding the injuries for Barca, Alonso was third choice at Chelsea with Cucurella and Chilwell. He's in the Champions League. I'm in full agreement with Gab on Eric Garcia. Man City had a look at him, couldn't wait to get him back to Spain. Piqué is just getting old, but he's making bad decisions. It's not just that he's lacking the legs anymore, he's making bad decisions. And Sergio Roberto's playing because they got rid of Dest, they haven't got a right back. Right, they haven't got a right back. That's where they are. Having spent all this money, that is where they are. And that's a problem now for Xavi. Got this big Clasico coming up at the weekend. He left Kessie on the bench again, which is Kessie and De Jong, which gives him a different balance in the midfield. That's still a head scratcher for me. Here's a guy, Kessie, who can score goals, who can tackle, who can pass, who can defend. That's an extra dimension in the middle of the park. And once again, he was overlooked. So I think there's quite a lot of questions for this Barca manager.
What questions would you have of Xavi tonight, Ale?
Okay. Well, where do we start? Honestly, the first thing I would say is, or I would ask is, so what's the excuse now? See, coming into this period of time, going back a couple of weeks, the conversation surrounding Barcelona and surrounding Xavi was that they were going to play 12 finals over the next month or so. That every game was critical to their success, particularly the Champions League games against Inter. So they go to Milan and they lose. Now, of course, the circumstances under which they lost, they're going to point the finger at the fact that there was a penalty kick that was not called on the handball by Dumfries. All right, well, that was the excuse then, and that kind of took away the conversation from how ineffective the performance had been. So then you go and play this weekend, you were not convincing, didn't play all that well, get the result, and you're thinking, okay, I'm not so sure about this team. They show up at home, full of energy, packed stadium, here we go. All right, we're going to have a great performance. And it wasn't that from Barcelona's perspective. So what's the reason now? All I can tell you is that this Barcelona team, when they slow the pace of the ball down, they become predictable to defend. And when you rely upon Ousmane Dembele, for example, to continue to be your difference maker, Well, I can say that while he scored a goal in the first half, the rest of the match for him is a lot of, ooh, so close. He almost scored. Oh, he was just a little bit off. While Lautaro Martinez, who is not nearly as skillful a player, but has enough character and enough effectiveness and efficiency in his game to create problems for Barcelona time and time again, and actually have productivity in the end when he makes decisions, when he scores a goal, when he passes the ball out to the left-hand side for the third goal. So if I'm evaluating, I'm saying, give me a Lautaro-type player, and you can keep Ousmane Dembele. Ousmane Dembele may have all the skills in the world. He doesn't have the productivity, and he doesn't have the substance that other players on the field have. And in this case, based on today's evidence, give me Lautaro, you can keep Dembele.
What did you think of Dembele tonight?
Well, I think one of the problems is, for him, is that Rafinha did set up the goal with a nice close down and pass, and Mkhitaryan switched off. But I see a bit of an issue here because they've got two players that want to play on the right-hand side. And that's where Dembele's most effective. But yet, in shoehorning both of these guys in, Dembele shifts to the left and Rafinha on the right. Now, Rafinha certainly hasn't hit the ground running at Barcelona. And so I think there's a choice to be made there. Again, looking at balance. If you want to get your best, maybe Ansu Fati on the left, Ferran Torres, who hasn't been great, but he's pacey, on the left, Dembele on the right. And I think trying to shoehorn both these players into the team, you're getting neither the best out of both, particularly Dembele. So, yeah, you want to get your pacey wingers in, both want to play in the same position, but you're losing the effectiveness of one of them by putting them on the left-hand side. That's a manager's decision.
Come match day 6, Gab, then, is this group already sorted?
I don't think it is sorted because Inter fans know this very, very well. They have this incredible ability to make life very difficult for themselves. But, you know, from what we've seen, so do Barcelona. We know Bayern want to win the group, and so I think we'll see a strong Bayern team against Barca. And then, you know, I think this could well go down to the wire. Certainly, if it doesn't, you know, all the lost revenue, Joan Laporta is going to have to do a lot of this. And yes, I'm pulling levers here. He's going to have to find more levers to pull, I think, at this stage. And maybe people will reflect on the gigantic gamble that he took with this club in the summer.
Yeah, we think about Inter and Pilsen, and a point's going to be good enough, isn't it?
I think that they've got to win to be sure. They've got to beat them, yes.
They've got to win to be sure. So, but they've got to play Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and that's the bigger problem.
If Barca lose to Bayern, then it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the bigger problem, is the fact that Barcelona, who look shaky. I mean, it's not just this game against a good Inter side on the night. You go back to the weekend, Celta Vigo, at the Camp Nou, second half, panic stations. Celta did nothing in the first half, nothing. Came out, got the boxing gloves on, started throwing a few punches, and we saw Barcelona just panic. There's no leadership there. There's no organisation really on the field anymore. It's kind of looking around. And so it's not just Inter. We saw it at the weekend, and that was a heads up to the Italians, I think, that you can get at this Barcelona team. So yeah, it's not like it's a one-off tonight. It's happening even against average teams in La Liga.
But they'll be lucky that they are top so far in La Liga, and I suppose what's happened in this game, at least they're top in La Liga. So
that's at least something for them to sort of hang on to at the moment, because as far as I'm concerned, they're going out of this competition.
Is it over, Ale, this group?
It's hard to make an argument for Barcelona right now. It really is. And I think when you look at players like Piqué making the sort of mistakes that he made tonight, or even a guy like Sergio Busquets making the mistakes that he makes and ends up being the second goal for Inter, it isn't just that it's over in Champions League. It's that it seems to be over for these guys at the high level, at the very elite level. And Xavi has been pushing Piqué out. If he had a choice, Piqué would not be on the field. And it feels like that same sort of movement starting around Sergio Busquets as well. So in that sense, yes, it is over for those guys potentially. I don't think it's still over for them in Champions League because, as Gab said, there is something about Inter that can deliver the sort of performances that they have put forth over the last couple of weeks against Barcelona, but can potentially blow up against Victoria Pilsen. I don't think it happens. It feels like Inter is going to go through, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.